to make sure that things move smoothly this evening, first of all, if you're wanting to speak, again, please get your name on that list, and here shortly we're going to collect those. I know that there's been a lot of banter on Facebook and other places. A lot of incorrect information, I think, has been put out there, and I'd ask you to listen and try to come in with an open mind, see if we can find some middle ground, find a collaboration that works. The council has been very clear since they started debate on this item last year that they want public input, significant public input on it. And so this is great that you've come out here today. We welcome this. We welcome your comments. You can see we came in here anticipating a larger crowd than our council chambers could accommodate, so we're glad to have you here tonight. This doesn't need to be an antagonistic or angry proceeding. We want to hear what you have to say. Comments can be submitted in writing or by email or here tonight. It's all the same. Doesn't make a difference one way or the other. If you have already submitted comments in writing, you don't need to say those same things tonight. That will help us move through the comments a little bit more efficiently. We are considering, if we decide to move forward with some version of this, we're considering holding another public hearing next month where we would publicize it and invite people to come and speak again. I don't know if we'll head down that road or not, but we'll see. We'll see where we end up. We also encourage those who do not live in Driggs or have a business in Driggs to allow residents and business owners to speak first. This is an ordinance that just affects the city of Driggs. It's not countywide. And so please let those who are residents or business owners have the podium first. We would greatly appreciate that. And finally, public comments should be strictly about this nuisance ordinance. That's the topic tonight. We don't want to hear about dogs. We don't want to hear about, well, unless they're a nuisance, I guess. Let's focus on the topic at hand again to help us get through this and be efficient and respectful of everybody's time.
Well, what about the mayor being a nuisance?
We know that. We know the mayor's a nuisance. So. And finally, I would ask that all comments are respectful. We can express our frustrations in respectful ways, and I would ask that we give mutual respect. I guarantee you the council will respect your time and your concerns. Please respect the effort that they're putting into this as well. So, with that, thank you. There's one other comment that I've been asked to make, and that is because we're not in the council chambers, we have only one microphone. And this microphone isn't necessarily very effective at picking up. Actually, that's not what we're concerned about. It's that we're concerned about that's recording. So we won't be able to have discussion over the bench, if you will. The person standing at the podium is speaking to the council is speaking to that person. Let's keep sidebar conversations to a minimum so that the recorder can properly pick up what matters here. Again, if you would like to speak, please get signed in. Why don't we get those, move those to the front. Where are those right now? I see one right here.
I think that's the one. It's on the quick roll.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to sign this? You haven't over here yet? Okay. Where's the other one, Annie? Do you have the other one?
They're both clipped behind you.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, sorry.
Why don't we unclip that, Doug, if we could, and pass it over here so we can get those.
Is there another one?
Yeah, just pull the one out from under and we'll send it over to this direction.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
If it's not, like you say, it's just been going on for a year, I
It's been covered for multiple months now. If you read the paper, you will see it in there.
No, it's,
The city council updated.
right, probably in that section. I think they had a whole article on it here.
We're also working on increasing our email list so that we can start sending emails to people, because that seems to be, to our citizens in Driggs, because that seems to be an easy way to be able to contact, and so we're trying to increase that list. And so if you're not on our email list, and have an email, then we encourage everybody to, share that with us so you can do email with.
Okay, I need that form right there if I could, and we'll just start right off.
Well, so in there, Denise, so some of the comments that were made a long time ago, like Ryan, Krista's comment, that was months ago, the one that we're looking at, and there's been a few others, so.
Okay, so I'm just going to start at the top of the list and work my way down. Whitney Singh.
Can I go last? I'd like to hear the other comments first. Is that possible?
Since you're on that page,
I'm on like the last
I'll put
one.
that page behind you and we'll start at the top of that page. Is that right, Howard? Steve Kerr. And one other reminder, just please state your name and address for the record.
Steve Kurtz, 550 Howard, Driggs, Iowa. I kind of wrote down, so I wouldn't rant, I guess, move off track. Bear with me a little bit. So, I'd like to start from most of the people that I've talked to think this is an overreach of city officials and policies. We live in a city, not an HOA. There's a lot of private property so that we can determine what we do with it. We have oversized lots, so we can store things on our lots that we collect throughout the years. Cars, boats, four-wheelers, stuff like that, whether they're owned or not. They're ours, we pay for them. We pay to keep them on our property. I guess you probably got a lot of this same stuff, so I would go to, I guess biggest question I have is, this was read back in 2014. At first, it's been in front of you guys for a long time. It took me one time to read it before I wanted to throw it in the trash. So what is, I don't understand what the thinking is to keep this going.
That's better.
Yes.
There you go.
Bring it on.
Go Elvis.
Repeat the question, so you so that you have. Well, this was brought up, like you say, last year. I was wondering, it took me one time to read it before I went to throw it in the trash. So I was just wondering, why do you guys are still entertaining these ideas and what you're thinking pattern is towards that?
So that's a great question, and I think that after the public comment period, the council will then address their perspectives. Right now, we're just asking for your input. So I think that we will address that question. Thank you. Do you have anything else, Steve?
Just I think this should stop. I'll start over. The only nuisance I see is you guys in my yard. Basically, if people don't like driving by our yards or whatever, they should drive down a different street.
Steve?
Question for Steve. You said right at the beginning that you talked to numerous people, and most of them were
Phillips 66. It was quite a wide topic, plus it was all over Facebook. Hundreds, if not more.
Basically, the talk of town.
Remember, let Steve do the talking right now. Ralph, you had a question for Steve?
Yeah, Steve dropped by today and visited with me, and you had a great idea, which this is a good, do you remember it?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Well, I would think that, rather than the city being a policeman on our own properties, I think maybe, you know, if we got together as a community and had like, 10 of our neighbors, before this ordinance was even enforced by you people, have 10 of our, if there was 10 people in our neighborhood that could complain before it would even become something that you guys would want to mess with. I mean, it would solve the government interfering with our lives. It would solve you guys not being able to do your business that we hired you to do. And I just think that would probably be a good starting place.
Thank you for that suggestion. Give it some consideration. Thank you, Steve. Jim Hartshorn.
My name's Jim Hartshorn with 800 North Highway 33. I've already emailed in my comments, so I'm not going to get specific in the issues. I think you're going to have plenty of input tonight, and I have full faith that you're going to pull out the good stuff. We're going to come up with a good ordinance. But the one thing I think you do need to be aware, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have quite nearly 100% support on this, and that is the whole issue of a misdemeanor. I don't think in this city that we're ever going to really find the need to go as far as filing a criminal charge against somebody. There's a lot of other ways we can deal with it. A lot of people I've talked to say if it's an issue of somebody can't afford to clean up their property, we're all willing to put in some volunteer time. We have trailers, machinery, the city has machinery. I think you take the wind out of a lot of sails if you just consider wiping that one part out of this ordinance and then pick out the good stuff from the rest. You know, if there's definite safety hazards, or refrigerators will lock a key in, or dead animals, stuff like that, you'll figure that out. But I think on the misdemeanor thing, unless I'm sadly been misinformed, that bothers pretty much all of us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jim. And that's a great comment. I think that the last council meeting where we discussed this, it was expressed that that misdemeanor would be reduced at most to an infraction, I think. We're also working on a lower penalty than that called a civil penalty, a civil fine, which would not incur any court costs. So the intent was to reduce that. And if that helps anybody feel better, I don't think we're going to see the misdemeanor in a final version of this.
That'd be awesome. And I think the civil penalty is probably, a better way to deal with it. Like I say, a lot of these people may not be cleaning things up simply they don't have the money. And to throw an attorney's fee and court costs and fine, it's just like adding fuel to the fire. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Carol Johnson.
Terrell Johnson, 73 Ashley. Are you receiving a lot of complaints? That's one thing I wanted to know. Are we receiving a lot of complaints?
We're receiving both sides.
You're talking about nuisance violations?
Right.
Yes, we are receiving complaints.
Okay.
Oh, for that.
And now, if you're going to start finding people, I know of a little lady who lives up the street from me. Her lawn looks like hell. She's living on Social Security, and she is barely surviving. How in the world can you walk in and find this woman and tell her what she has to do with her property? That's one of my strongest things. That I really struggle with that portion. Oh, there was one other thing I might have to get up again later that I wanted to speak about, but it's escaped my mind right now.
Thank you, Terrell.
So you're right here.
Aaron Little.
Aaron Little, owner of Driggs City Council, 211 North Main. Once upon hearing this first of last
find somebody that we really want to hurt, walk up to them and say, we love you so much, we want you to clean up a little bit. And this is how we're willing to help you. And that would be one of the good proposals. So I second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions? Thanks.
You know, sorry, I have, it's not really a question, but maybe it's my understanding that how you're talking about cars, that's part of in the original ordinance. As
Yeah,
well.
but it is, but the enforcement of it is where I'm concerned. And a lot of them, I really love the stipulation for a 25-year-old car. There's a lot of kids that bought a car 2 years ago and they want to restore it right now because it's broken down. So how are they going to go get a permit to restore if their car is not 25 years old? Just some of the language is so limiting. To be repaired has to be in a shelter or a garage, out of sight of public. How do a lot of people live in trailers? They own a trailer. They don't own a garage. So they got a rent garage, fix on that. And language like that is limiting to the public which you're serving. There's a lot of people, I don't know how many, but we can come up with a number. We don't have that many people in Driggs. We don't have that many houses, but we can go by house and find out who actually could repair their car in their own driveway. My question is, are you capable, physically capable to change your own tire and fix your car in your own house? Not a problem. But if you don't have a garage to do it in, now does it become a problem if that becomes lawful and you want to follow the law?
The way the ordinance reads is if it sits there for a period of time,
Do you fix things really fast?
after the period of time, then it can be subject to being covered or out of sight. So that's the issue as far as
But it's,
fixing it quickly. It's
I
not
guess
a problem.
it's wordage that is interpreted.
It would also be that if it's a car that somebody, if it's your primary car, then somebody is gonna wanna have it fixed quickly, so you have a car to be able to use. So maybe it's more of a discussion of, hobby or a secondary car, right? Because
I have 30.
somebody's not gonna leave a car that's
I
their
have 30
primary
that I
car.
drive on a monthly basis.
One a day.
I drove here for 1 day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Val Casper. Oh, I just need to.
Yeah.
Clarification.
Yes.
Yeah, this might help a lot.
So if you have vehicles enclosed, you can have as many as you want in whatever condition you want to put. The inoperable vehicles, open to, in the driveway or whatever, you would get a free permit to restore or repair those, and anybody can get that, and they're free. So there's barrier there to anybody, you can repair out, you don't need a cardboard or anything.
Thank you for that clarification, Doug. Val Casper?
Can I ask you clarification on his? What is enclosed? You gotta have a roof on it, got a 6-foot chain link, not see-through fence around it, that's enclosed.
It's gotta be hermetically sealed in a plastic bag.
They make them nice ones anymore.
Folks, can I make a comment here, gentlemen?
Yes.
Folks, this whole ordinance it hasn't even become law yet. It isn't an ordinance yet. We're in the process of discussing this. This is why we need comments like this to help us build it so it's accustomed to you folks, okay? We're not up here saying that it's gonna be enclosed in a plastic bag or things of that nature. I mean, please keep an open mind about this. This is not, so let it be written tonight.
Well stated, thank you, Wade.
I'm just 30 seconds more of kind of general background.
Sure.
The council started discussing the topic of the concern about commercial properties, mostly downtown commercial properties that were not being maintained, were perhaps vacant during the recession, where a
specific and clear, which helps staff, and helps the public, so we all know what we're talking about, what we're looking at. So we looked all around Idaho for something that was clear and comprehensive, and we found the code in Pocatello was very comprehensive. So we started with that, and what comprehensive gives you is also a lot of sort of strict nitpicky things, which I think is, made a lot of us uncomfortable. So what we've been doing is starting with that comprehensive Pocatello code and dialing it back to, as Councilmember Kaufman says, fit Driggs. So that's where we are in the process.
Great background, thank you for that clarification. Val, sorry for the false start.
Oh, no problem. My name's Val Casper, live at 460 East Ashland in Driggs, and as I read the proposed amendments to the ordinance, I have an issue that it's trying to change the intent of the ordinance, making it come from I can't do things on my property that affects my neighbor's property, which is the original ordinance. Now it is, the proposed ordinance is an infringement on my private property rights, which I have a real problem with. It's not a function of government to tell me what I can do on my property. It's pretty much as simple as that.
So, if I may ask you, Val, and I appreciate your comments, what is the difference between something that may be done on your property or your neighbor's property that affects the value of yours versus what has been proposed here? How do we draw that line between those? How do we get back to protecting your property rights from something your neighbor may do?
It's none of my business what my neighbor does. If I don't like what he does, I'll go talk to him.
That's right.
If he needs help cleaning up his property, I'll go talk to him. It's not the city's responsibility to keep the property values up. It's your responsibility to be a taxing agent, provide for the public good, which the water system doesn't. And that's pretty much what your role in the community is. It's not to tell me what to do with my property. It's not for you to tell my neighbors what to do with their property. If I don't like what they're doing, I've got the money to do it, I'll wipe them out. That's what we should be doing. It's not the city coming in and finding me for not for a shingle that blew off. That's a problem.
So I have a question about how you say that it's not the city's business to
infringe on my private rights.
And so, but I'm also, hang on a second, I just don't want to forget what I'm saying. Maybe Stephen, our attorney, knows more, but I would guess that a large percentage of cities in the state of Idaho have a nuisance ordinance. Now, I'm not saying what's in the ordinance, but I would imagine that there would be. And so I'm just wondering if it's not the right of cities to be able to have a standard of whatever that is defined as. How does that work? Like, are we the only city that's proposing to have this type of ordinance, Stephen?
No, as Doug pointed out, this ordinance, I think, originated with Pocatello, and this is a very watered-down version of Pocatello's. It is, it's fairly similar to Rexburg's. Rexburg has more language in some areas and less language in other areas. Island Park, which is a community made up of a lot of workers, working class individuals who live there year-round.
And very wealthy.
And tourists. There's a lot of tourists, but there's a lot of the people who live in Highland Park, the city, are working class people, and they live right down the highway, and they have a nuisance ordinance similar to this. And the distinction, there's nothing in this ordinance that I could find that violates any of the authorized activities of the city. This doesn't proscribe rights that are not otherwise tied to health, safety, and the community interests. They are not all politically acceptable, but they are all legally authorized.
Thank you, Steve. Val, did you have anything else you wanted to share?
In that vein, this ordinance smells like a covenant for a subdivision, which is a matter of contract law.
HOAs, you mean?
You have, yeah.
CC&Rs? They do manage a lot of these same types of things.
They do indeed, and those are a matter of contract. If I move into one of those subdivisions, I sign on to live there. When I signed on to Driggs, water, sewer, and garbage was $10. We had 2 city employees. The streets were never unplowed. I never had a problem getting in or out of my yard. So if you're going to rewrite the covenants, let's go back to that. That's enough.
Thank you, Val. I'm having trouble reading this name. Perez?
So be back, we'll do it after.
Oh, okay, we'll come back then.
Yeah.
Dan Rogers?
Hey everybody, Dan Rogers, 160 North 4th Street. I just wanted to sort of re-echo some concerns I've already voiced, in that kind of personally I feel like this is a little overreaching. And that I know for myself, I specifically bought in City of Driggs, because there weren't HOA style covenants and things like that coming in. And I can kind of agree with the spirit of where this is going, but I think the wording is really turning a lot of folks off. Specifically, my main concerns about this were mainly around the parking and also the structures. You know, I can't, as an educated person, look through this and think that if I park a drift boat on my lawn, that's not, you know, going against this, and that's kind of a problem for me. Also, as a gardener, the structures kind of language is a little weird, because, you know, a lot of us have greenhouses, hoop houses, all that kind of stuff, and if this is pretty much saying that can't be done, right? So now we're talking about spending more money for permanent, you know, structures and things of that nature, which I don't really agree with. And also, I do like the comment before that this is moving away from the misdemeanor aspect and more to a fine or whatever that looks like. And I just wanted to also say I think that's a lot better way to go.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions? Thank you. Doug, another clarification?
Another clarification, canopy is just a definition, and maybe it doesn't even need to be in there. And there was some confusion, I think I saw on Facebook posts and whatnot, that canopy was somehow prohibited by the ordinance. That it's not even addressed anywhere in the ordinance. It's simply a definition in the ordinance. So you can have as many, and wherever you want to put them, canopies of cloth, metal, fiberglass, greenhouses, etc. So there's nothing proposing to prohibit or limit any kind of temporary structure.
Can't have them in Pocatello, so
And that could be.
I think it's a carryover. They defined it in Pocatello's ordinance, and then later in the ordinance, they restricted it, prohibited it. We held on to the definition because it was a good definition, but we didn't put any prescriptive language in the ordinance later that says you can't do it. So, as Doug says, we could throw it away because we don't need to define canopy because we don't act upon that definition. That's the difference. When you pull something from another city and you start cutting out the parts you don't like, you occasionally hang on to definitions that
could you also throw in that you could have those?
ordinances are always intended to be proscriptive.
So they could be added to later as restricted.
Through the same process, as could anything. Driggs could decide that they want to restrict residents of Rexburg coming in.
That's a great idea.
You'd lose in court, but you could try.
Okay.
We keep saying Pocatello's code. Are they considered an agricultural community like us? Did we follow the code from a city or did the?
I guess I would beg, no city is considered agricultural. No. The Idaho Constitution says once you form a city, you become a collective of residential and commercial practices. So you may be a community that serves an agricultural area. Pocatello would probably not fit that, although they probably, with their fertilizer plant, serve more acres of agricultural than Driggs does. But I get your meaning, that the city as a collective is regulated on a collective basis with a boundary around it that says everything inside this boundary shall consist of managed residential, commercial, industrial, non-agricultural, although there can be some agricultural uses within that area, but the agricultural becomes subservient to the collective of citizenry, is the way the Constitution views it in Idaho.
Wouldn't we be better defined as a town, small Idaho town?
Same definition in Idaho.
There's no distinction, but again, let's let everybody have their turn at the microphone. These are some great comments that we hear, and I think that in the weeks going forward, as we try to refine this, Steve and Aaron and anyone else, we welcome you to come in and let's have the conversation sitting around a table. Let's craft something that fits Driggs, that is Driggs specific. So I believe Perez is up. Is Perez back?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I couldn't read your handwriting. I didn't get your first name, but if you would like to approach, you may.
Yeah, I'm a very good speaker, so
That's okay, none of us are.
I misunderstood and I feel out of she. I read all these ordinances. Nowadays, a lot of them, most of them, was these are property and I think anything that they rise to probably work to or not to. I don't know why they trying to do this. It's supposed to be doing what we can do, whatever we do.
Thank you. Stephanie Baker.
I submitted a few comments online already. So I just wanted to ask, how will this be enforced? Oh, Stephanie Baker, 185 Local Ave.
Thank you. We'll get into the enforcement perhaps in later discussion. I think though, again, for the sake of everybody, the council was very clear at the outset of this conversation that we want to be doing education first and enforcement as a last resort. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, all right. And my main concern is making people into criminals, especially if they can't afford to make the changes that are required.
Does the council have any questions? Thank you, Stephanie. Next is Joe Montiel.
Joe Montiel, 355 West Side
Montiel.
Kathy Montiel, 355 East Ross, Driggs. When you're doing this ordinance and that, are we looking at the front of the house, or are you driving back in the back of my 2.5 acres? Looking at my shop back there that has trucks back there that need fixed or whatever the case might be. I want to know if you're just paying attention to the front, or if I have to be concerned about everything, my hay not covered, whatever the case might be. I need to know that. And like my husband says, on on the time allowed, you are very much concerned about the vehicles and that, 9 months, 2 years and whatever, but you're not telling us. I drove through town today. I was looking at everybody's house. Now, my house is not a piece like everybody might think. But I'm looking at the siding. There's chips where I've had a dog tied up and that, you know, and he's rubbed off. They don't make that siding anymore. So are you gonna find me and then give me a month or 2 to put all new siding on? Because, or are you just gonna look at the front one? Maybe I can just do the front and get by with it. And again, it took me 20 years living there. It's not gonna take me a year to get that all fixed up, because I am a citizen and the inside of my house is more important than the outside. Like I said, my house doesn't look bad. It really doesn't on the outside. But my inside is more important. And then I have the lady down the street that has a lot of land. She can't be here tonight. And she can hardly feed herself. She lives on Social Security. She can hardly get her medicine. How she can take care of doing what you guys expect. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kathy. Does the council have any questions for Kathy? Thank you so much. Amber Peters.
Hi, my name is Amber Peters at 320 East Howard Avenue. I just wanted to start out by saying that my husband and I were in the military. I was in 9 years, and my husband Ezra was in 5 years. And we've lived all over, and we found Driggs, and we loved it. We looked all around this valley, and we wanted to originally live outside of town, but it was so restricted. It was like an HOA everywhere. We couldn't have chickens. We wanted a couple goats. We couldn't have that. And then we looked in town, and it was not restricted. It was like live and let live, and we loved that. It was hard to find that anywhere. But then our neighbor came over and let us know about this, and it just instantly felt like a nightmare, because we just bought our house. And it's everything we were not wanting is government in our lives. I've had enough government in my life forever. So we're here, you know, just trying to live. And so at first I was really angry about it. And then I thought, well, you know, my other good neighbor told me, you know, these people are not bad people, and you guys aren't. And so I wanted to approach you as like, you know, at first I was very angry, and then I realized, you know, they have good intentions. So, and coming tonight, I thought this was going to be like voted into a law. So I'm glad that we're like talking about it. The main thing I want to convey is that I do feel like this is government overreach. I really like the community we have where it is live and let live. And we looked around at the different neighborhoods, and almost everybody had some type of problem off of this, off of what you're trying to propose. We looked in backyards. We went to people, and I'm telling you, you asked how many people, we went all over town, and almost nobody knew about this. And they were all really angry. We said, you see that snowmobile? Get it somewhere, because this won't pass. You know, or you'll get some kind of infraction. So really, people weren't aware, you know, and I understand when it goes out in papers and everything, people really were not aware. Nobody has been aware of this that we've talked to. I have the biggest mouth in the world, and that can sometimes work for me, and, you know, nobody knew that we talked to, not even one person. And I don't know you, but I think you started the whole thing. And then it blew up. People were like, what is happening? So nobody knew. Everybody was really angry about it. So if you guys are putting the word out, if you could put it out better, because it's not getting to people.
Amber, can you give us a suggestion for how we could get it out better? Like I said, maybe we need to hire Steve.
Well, you can hire me. I have a really big mouth. And then Steve does too, apparently. No, I'm just kidding. But what about, you know, maybe the Facebook community pages? People are in Facebook now. It's very, you know, that's how it really gathers a lot of traction.
Your Facebook's really limited as far as, we can't see what, I can't see what she's saying. You guys can all see it, but it doesn't, it's not a...
Yeah, so the word's not getting out.
So maybe Facebook, Councilmember Christensen mentioned email. You can sign up on our website for our newsletter.
People are going to do that. They are not going to do that. They're not going to say, I'm going to go to this boring site, and you guys need to get involved with us. Because we want to be involved, but it needs to be like a step out.
Why wouldn't an email work then?
We don't like government, we don't like...
Then
what about, you know, like, I would say
want the
instead of an email,
information, then we need, if you're saying we want the information, like, this is something I've been working on. I want to be able to have us be more transparent and for us to be able to share. Victor, I learned more information about what's going on in our valley from the city of Victor. And I was like, why am I learning this from the city of Victor? I'm on Driggs City Council. And they have this email list, and they send out notices, what's happening, there's this ordinance, and so, or there's this meeting, or, well, there's a street closure, or, you know, I mean, it's kind of all over the board. And so, but you're saying you don't want to share your email with us?
No, I didn't say that. And you could go back in the recording. No, I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. No, I think email might work if you're doing it that way.
And maybe what we should be doing right now is having a piece of paper that people can write their email down if they want to be included, because this is something that we have started already, and so that we can include, you know, so if you all would like to be included.
I actually have a customer in there right now.
Wait, hang on, I see lots of people with their hands raised.
She doesn't have email or a phone. So.
And that's why we put things, so every city, and Stephen, our attorney, can answer this better than I can, but cities have certain laws of how we share information, and it's on our website, and yes, it's totally boring, but that's how a lot of people that live in a city get the information, if they want to, is to be able to go onto the website, and to be, we have to, by law, we have to say, this is our agenda, and it's posted on walls and in places. And so, we're not saying we're hiding information from you guys. Like,
well,
but we can't go to every single door and say that.
And I know that you're covered by what you're saying. You are putting it out. And you had somebody back here say how many times you put it out. Who saw it? Who saw it?
So
what I'm telling you, no matter what you say, no matter how many legal ways you can say that everybody knows about it, nobody knows.
Usually what happens is people don't find out about it until 2 or 3 people get upset. And then the word happens. And that's what happens. I mean, we are taking every effort we can to make sure the public is aware of it, whether it be via newspaper, email, or our personal city website. And whoever chooses to read those, that's their American human right. And until someone gets picked, they're upset, that's what happens. Then the world runs rapid fire. Everybody thinks it's law of tonight.
Yeah, we did think
that.
And so you guys have conveyed
what I'm saying to you is, we as a city, we are making every effort to do that, but until a few people way we can do our job is pass a rumor out, get everybody all pissed off, everybody can show up, then we can tell them the real story.
Well, I know officially you guys are doing your job. I didn't say you're not. But I think that the word can get out better. And it's not happening right now. So if you care that we're not getting the word, and I'm telling you, nobody's getting the word, hardly anybody's getting the word, I can't speak for everybody, then something on your end needs to change. You guys are the ones that people voted in. I didn't vote you in because I wasn't in town yet. But you guys need to do a better job. You need to get your heads together and get it out to us better. And it's not that you're a failure, I'm just telling you, nobody knew about this. So yeah, I understand everybody's angry.
I
So-
make a motion to put a marquee on Main Street.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, second.
Post it up and
That
down.
sell alcohol and corn dogs and everything.
I'm on the city of Driggs
so-
now webpage, and you don't have anything about signing
So
up.
I hate to have a problem and not bring, can you get some water? You guys make me all nervous.
I'm sorry, we did not mean to make you nervous. Amber, would you be willing to come in and work with the city staff
Yeah.
in developing better ways to communicate? Would you
Yeah,
help us with
I
that?
absolutely would. I totally would.
Well, I'm going to put a big red star next to your name here, and I'm going to give you a
Alright.
call.
As long as
Actually, I
it
don't have your
shines.
phone number. As long as what?
Does this star shine? Is it gold and shiny or is it red?
It's red.
Okay.
Is that all right?
It'll do. So,
And if you'll make sure that you leave your phone number with one of the city staff members before you leave tonight, that would be
okay,
great.
cool. I hate to come up with a problem and not a solution. I can't remember your name, or the Black Vest, but you had a really good one, which is kind of like a community cleanup day. Something where we can get more involved with the community, and if we see a property that really needs help, if a lot of people know personally people that are going through financial hardships, you know, maybe as a community we could say to that person, we have this volunteer community program, would you like us to help you this Saturday or whatever? We do once a month or something like that, and then we go to that person and say, you know, because people can volunteer other people for it, you know, or as a joke they can say, this person sucks and put their name on there. But, you know, that's something that we could do, and that would make our community stronger instead of making it where we have to be. I think the main problem I have is I don't need to be regulated. I don't need anybody to tell me, not because I'm a little kid, don't tell me what to do, but we bought this land, that's why we moved here, you know? And I don't need somebody to come and tell me that I can't have firewood, not that that's in there, I'll just use an example, or can't have this over here or that. Maybe I like my old ugly car that's 5 years old and somebody gave it to me that I like, it's my property, I want to put it there, and maybe it's hot pink, okay, cool, whatever, and I want polka dots on it. That's just the way it is, and I don't feel that it's my job to tell my neighbor what to do, and as long as they're not doing anything to hurt me, you know, like putting some kind of poison or something on my property, or having a loose dog or something on my property that's dangerous, you know, stuff like that, and that's stuff we can talk about, and there's already things on the book, I think, for that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's just my point, it's just really, I know there's good intentions, but it's totally, it feels like you guys are like trying to come up with all these little rules to like nitpick us and say, I mean, the yard sale one, I had to laugh a lot, and I laughed again when I just saw it. Like, not that I'm a big yard seller, but 2 a year, why would that, it's never even been a problem. I've been in the valley forever. I mean, there was a place in California I lived at in the military. They had a 24-hour yard sale. I would like you guys to come down hard on that one. But here, it's not a problem. So, you know, it's just not a need here. If we had a bunch of criminals or a bunch of losers around here, it's cool, but we walk around this whole town, and almost every site, every property has something wrong with it. Off of this, off of your, I'm touching mine, but I'm meaning the ordinance. So, that's all I have to say.
And Amber, I'd like to share with you that one of the ideas that we have talked about every time that we've talked about this idea is that how you talk about the education piece and having education, and one of the things that when I was campaigning a year and a half ago, the number one thing that people that were from here said, there used to be this cleanup day once a year, every single year, and it was on free dump day, and there was dumpsters around, and the whole community got together, and they helped, and it was like this chip-in of like putting, you know, let's go put some stuff in the dumpster and take it to the dump.
so many people are saying, I haven't had one person that I've talked to who knew about this. So, word is not getting out. So, that falls on leadership. So what can we do as a leader? I'm a business owner, I know how it works. The buck falls right back onto the leader. So what can you guys do? And I'll help you, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would help. What can we all do to get the word out where we don't feel like we're getting, the Patriot Act passed on us or something, So, I'm going to my bombshells. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
My bombshells.
Just as a note, we actually do have some comments that were submitted as far back as last year. So we have had people who have been aware of this and have submitted comments. But, yeah, we can always improve on that, so thank you. Ezra Peters. Let's see if this guy can add anything to what his wife has said.
Doubtful. My name is Ezra Peters, 320 East Howard. I just want to start with a question. Where did the idea come from to implement the ordinance? Essentially, why was it felt that it was needed to say, okay, let's look around? Was this something that the city council collectively decided? Was this like an outside hand? Because to me, it comes off as something that, essentially somebody saying, oh, I don't like what my neighbor's doing, so we can, draft up an ordinance
Thank you, Ezra, for your comments. I was running for legislature, I ran unopposed for council, so I wouldn't have sent anything.
For legislation.
Yeah, you get the year that I was running for legislature.
Okay.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah.
Charlie Sullivan.
My name is Cheney Sullivan.
I apologize for
That's
mispronouncing.
all right. I'm always telling somebody's met me before they know my name. Okay, I live at 265 North Third. That's all the identification.
Perfect.
Okay. I wasn't gonna start here, but since it seems to be such a discussion, I'm a registered voter in this county. And you know, both the Republican and the Democratic Party call me on the phone. They have no trouble. I always know when the election's coming up. But like my neighbors, I knew nothing about this. You say it's been around since last year. Never heard of it. If it hadn't been for my neighbors, I still wouldn't have heard of it. But I suggest if the Democratic Party and the Republican Party can both get a hold of me, well, y'all could call too. Just use the voter ID list. Okay, and a call on the phone is posted saying, hey, we're doing this. We'd like you to show up and give your opinion. Several people have mentioned the misdemeanor, and y'all say you're not following through on that. I'm shaking. I never seen that in front of people. I'm always at the back of the room. It seems to be an American value in the last 10 years to punish people for wrongdoing. And it seems that if we're property owners and we have an extra car in our yard, we're now subject to that kind of thinking. If you have 2 cars in your yard, I happen to have several cars in my yard because I'm scared to death of getting stranded. There's nothing worse than needing to go to the grocery store and one won't start. So you have another one back here so that you can get there. Anyway, I think the whole tone of this ordinance is a punishing one. We're going to punish you for living on your own property. And at least 2 people, including him, mentioned helping people. And we used to be that kind of a community. We used to be that kind of a culture where if several people have mentioned older people on Social Security, all right? And if you know that, it's so easy to get a group of people and say, hey, can we help you? And it's my personal belief that's the way it should be done. Saying, well, you've got junk in your yard and we're going to punish you for that. It's a wrong attitude. It's putting an undue financial burden on people who just plainly cannot afford it. Okay, as far as nuisance and unsightly blight, you know what is unsightly blight to one person is a treasure to another. It's in the definition of how the individual sees things. And one neighbor might have a pristine property, I mean just pristine. They go out, they spray lawn chemicals every other day. They don't have a dandelion. I'm getting nervous. They don't have a dandelion in their yard. They look at their neighbors, and their neighbor's yard is yellow from all the dandelions. city. It's a